You're listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
we're having a laugh. Well, we're not really. Live on Spice FM.
And each week we're bringing some views, news, and 1 or 2 clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
We'll be talking shop quite literally and not just corner shop. So they look to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. So let's do a couple of things so that I think we're live. No one said we're not, or we are. But anyway, there's a weekly show business with Jalf Ammar. So, Jalf, the catastrophic impact of Omicron.
Yep.
What's going on?
Well, obviously, I lose my days, but I think it was Wednesday when the announcement was made, 8 p.m. Professor Whitty, Boris Johnson, and another lady, and technically, what they told us was spoken for a very long time, effectively telling us that, yeah, whilst we're not going to close down restaurants and bars, we advise that you don't really go to them. You know, choose where you want to go to and what is priority. Do you want to see family or do you want to go socialize? So since that announcement is made, I think, I mean, and obviously I'm part of restaurant groups around the country and stuff. Michelle Roux, some of the other big players, tweeting messages straight away. And I said, no, I said to myself, wow, that's really, really quickly, because we're not kind of noticing that. But obviously 8 and 9 o'clock was quite late in the night for people to call us. And then all of a sudden, Thursday morning, my goodness, we came into a whole load of cancellations, and people are just seem to be so scared of Omicron that they're just saying that, especially the larger parties, and people, social corporate responsibility maybe. A lot of the companies have advised that
they don't want to be seen, right? You, from an ethical and moral point of view, Jeff.
I don't think it's from.
The challenge is this: that everybody. The message now is: do you want to spend Christmas with your loved ones? If you do, then don't do anything.
Yeah, but fine. Look, it's not about. I don't think it's a moral and ethical decision from the companies.
Okay, but as in,
I think it's more. I think it's more. They don't want to be. They want to be seen to be doing the right thing, and everyone just goes against. Everyone just goes with the narrative, and I'm sorry, but I mean we may have different views, but the fact is, people need to really use a bit of common sense and look at what's happened in the last 18 months. And for me as an individual, I've always been, I live and breathe in society. I'm not a recluse where I'm sat in my office and I don't go out. I go out every single day. Even during the first pandemic, we chose to close for X amount of weeks. But I've always been in the firing line, in amongst other people, in amongst my own members of staff, and in and around customers or guests for the last 18 months or so. And for me, in my opinion, that everything that has been done, and everything that the British public have done over the last 18 months, and I know 100%, every single time the government have given some new rules, I've seen with my very own eyes that people have followed those rules meticulously. There may be very small groups of people, which you're going to get in all societies, that may have broken those rules, but it's such a minority of individuals that fall into that category. That over the last 18 months, everything that we've done, 3 weeks to flatten the curve, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, everyone abided by every single rule that's out there. And I know for sure when we speak to people that the damage that a lockdown does, look at our businesses at this moment in time. Now the damage that's going to do to all those individuals who are not going to be able to get the hours that they need before Christmas, and without any, and in the first instance, they had this furlough support, but now there is no talks of a official lockdown, but it's kind of a unofficial lockdown in some ways. And what are these people going to do? The livelihoods always get affected by closing down the economy, and the damage that can do when you close in an economy when in a country of 60, 70 million people against fighting Omicron when there's 10 people in hospital and one person's died and the symptoms are milder than what they were previously. For me, when I look at it, I think the public have actually, they've forgotten everything that they've done, and they're continuing to do the same things over and over again. And someone needs to be accountable for these type of decisions that don't seem to be able to deal with the mutations or the viruses that are changing, because the society doesn't seem to be changing. It seems to be getting more and more controlled every single day. Some of the decisions are quite baffling that's been happening. So I just think that, there's a virus there. We have to live with it. We have to be safe. We have to take care of our homes, our families, and think about our communities and make sure that we are there together to get through this. But keep on locking down a country with 70 million people. And yes, they're saying it's not a lockdown, but effectively it is. The damage is going to be catastrophic. And what is the wider game? I really don't know, but I just don't feel that this is the right way to go. And it always seems to happen in Christmas. We were so nervous as an operator. We were thinking, right, come on, let's get 2 more weeks out of this and let's see where we are. But no, it has to be in the harvest period for hospitality, especially. So it's not good out there at the moment. But what can we do as an operator? We have to just try our best and make those business decisions and try and salvage the businesses.
And what could you be doing now, Jalf?
Well, in terms of in a normal situation or
this one?
The only thing that we can do is look at the levels of drop in business in terms of reservations. It's quite easy to see. I know we have to plan accordingly.
Sorry, you mentioned how many?
Well, we've got on our payroll, we've got 125.
So you've got 125 people, but you mentioned in the last 24 hours you'd had 300 cancellations?
We have 300 cancellations across the restaurants. It's decimated. I mean, there's still people in the restaurants, don't get me wrong. It's better than them saying, avoid restaurants, what they did in the first pandemic.
Yeah.
So they haven't said that. They said socialize at your own choice. And some people want to still socialize. Families of 4s and 6s and 8s, and they're still socializing. But there's been a whole lot of cancellations. So it's a matter of all we've done as an operator, tried to be very, very smart, open up the reservations, call all the guests, and try and see if we can get some more in, get some more bums on seats over the next 2-3 days. But we've had to already begin to cut down the staff quite significantly. And luckily for us, there is a whole lot of part-timers that went on holiday on their own accord because it's leading up to Christmas. So that softened the blow a little. But then we have a lot of salary employees that we don't really know what position that we're in, because we can hear murmurs within the groups, which is perfectly normal. But hold on, I'm a salary, so I'm okay, which is fine. But there's going to be a point where if we can't pay the salary employees, what do we do? I did manage to have a COVID clause in a contract. Because once COVID and government announcements shut down the economy effectively or ineffectively, or officially or unofficially, there is some kind of cover that we have as an operator because we had that in place. So we don't want to exercise that at this moment in time. But at the end of the day, if you have a business where you can't afford the labor, you have to make those decisions. And I hope that I'm not forced to make too many seriously tough decisions in the next few days or so. But we are very much fluid now, very fluid, and we're just looking at and exploring all options, even the options of a full lockdown ahead and going back to takeaways and things like that. So it's very disruptive. It's painful, and we just have to follow what the government comes up with, and obviously we have to work within the rules that are going to be set for us.
Yeah, so the current talk is that Wales are now closing everything down on the 27th.
I think, is it everything Ammar, or is it nightclubs, I think? And so I'm introducing social distancing.
Yeah, so I believe it. I thought it was all leisure and hospitality, but I might have made that up.
I think from what I've read, from what I've seen is that they're closing down nightclubs from the 27th, and they're going to introduce social distancing in hospitality, which would mean that you have that 1 meter gap, and you do this and you do
actually
that.
2 meters, Jeff.
2 meters. I think what I feel that they're doing slightly differently in favor of hospitality compared to previously. I think they have managed to work out that hospitality is a bit safer than retail, in the sense that it's very hard to maintain that social distance in retail, because as you're crossing people, as you're coming across aisles, whether you go to Asda's, you're never going to maintain that 1 meter plus space, because you're always going to cross aisles, and the aisles are not 3 meters or 4 meters wide, because it wouldn't be efficient, this, that, and the other. So in hospitality, at least when for the majority of time that you go into a restaurant, you do go and sit, and there is that social distance. So it's kind of the table plan is in place, so that makes it safer. I think they have recognized that, and haven't introduced masks within hospitality, because it doesn't make sense, because you're going to be sitting down waiting for your food and you don't have your mask on, and as soon as you stand up, so you're in that same environment where you can't eat with a mask on. So what's the logic of standing up and putting your mask on and sitting down and not having your mask on? So I think they haven't done those things for those reasons, which has been helpful for us. And hopefully, if they categorize hospitality in a little bit slightly easier position than they do retail, then we might be able to get through anything. Then a full lockdown naturally is going to be a tad better, where it makes it a bit easier. Even the option of, I think there was someone that said, oh, well, hold on, in hospitality, though, people can come, they can lose their inhibitions when they have too much to drink. Anything's better than the lockdown, even if they said to us that, yeah, alcohol is banned, and we can live with soft drinks. But closing restaurants and where people have to eat and providing a takeaway service, it's just illogical. So let's see what they say, and let's see where we are. But things change so fast, Ammar. The goalposts change so quickly. I mean, come on, business strategic planning. How on earth can you do that when the government makes one announcement and changes your entire model?
Well, okay, so it's a great point, Jeff. So I would argue, right, because we were talking about resilience, we were talking about business planning, we're talking about effective approach, the ability to remain agile and responsive, right? So cash flow is #1 priority, right, for any business. Now, last week, several businesses that I'm aware of went under because of supply chain issues, Jeff. So they had paid out for goods, and their customers were waiting for those goods, and because they hadn't been received, they hadn't been paid, so they ended up having to lose out, right? Now, variety of examples around the importance of cash flow, and mitigating costs as quickly as possible. And it's a finite balance, right? But if you were asking me what type of things could a restaurateur or someone in leisure and hospitality do, it's getting that balance right from stock, from supply, from sort of reducing potential options and doing a whole host of things to mitigate cost. It's also about sort of staffing and such like. I mean, the most important thing is to take a decision early on, right? In a war, the most important thing is action. Outside of a war, the most important thing is planning. Right? So getting that balance right is probably one of the most challenging things for a business, but it's equally one of the most important things for a business. So just thinking about business model innovation. Experimentation is what you do. So actually, our business topic of the week is business model innovation. So as your market changes, or as you are developing and testing your planned business model, it is always a good idea to experiment with the way your business model is designed. How can you use it to disrupt the market? Take a look at these examples to get some inspiration. So have you heard of the Dollar Shave Club, Jalf?
Nope.
Okay, so it launched in 2012 and began to sell razors directly to consumers. So you could buy your razors direct rather than through a shop or through a whatever. So combining viral marketing campaigns with a business model that cut out the middlemen to sell at a lower than average cost. By 2016, Unilever bought Dollar Shave Club for $1 billion.
Really? Wow. $1 billion. My goodness.
So in 4 years, Jack, that's all.
And what was so unique about the shavers?
No, well, it wasn't. There wasn't. It was just more, the biggest. So if I do research. If I was to give anybody some top tips and advice, right, on one of the biggest gaps when you're scaling your business is obviously there's people, there's strategy, there's cash, there's execution. But in the biggest amount of research, the things that have truly helped grow these companies at that stellar state is marketing and your ability to market effectively, whether that's a perception or not. So what the Dollar Shave Club was able to do was to market really, really effectively, and they disrupted the marketplace. If you think about it, as an individual who shaves, even now it might not look like it, but I still shave. Anyway, the having to go to a supermarket to buy your razors and they're at a premium. I use these Bic type things that are like 10 for £1. You use the Gillette XXXL super duper super.
Actually, I do.
Type of thing. Obviously you pay 20 odd quid for a pack of 8. And the Dollar Shave Club simply allowed you to get your razors sent out to you in the post, convenience, disruption, and competitive. So the business model was fantastic. And Unilever, think about it, they own their own razors. So what do? A bit like Coca-Cola. What did Coca-Cola do when it spent hundreds of millions of pounds on getting its coffee and launching a coffee brand? It went out. Coca-Cola went out and bought Costa, just like Unilever went out and bought the biggest disruptor. So what do? Buy them out.
Yeah, of course.
Is the thing. So from that point of view, it's particularly interesting. So that's them. When Microsoft launched Windows in 1985, the computer market was fragmented, with most PC manufacturers using their own operating systems for their computers. In 1990, Microsoft got 30 manufacturers to preload their Windows 3.0 on their machines. This effectively locked customers into using Windows, as customers didn't want to face switching costs and the effort of relearning new systems. Microsoft's suite of Windows-compatible software reinforced the lock-in. By the late 2010s, it was estimated that 80 to 90% of the world's PCs ran on Microsoft software.
Well, I don't know. That's a bit of market manipulation from good old Bill Gates, though. I think that those type of monopolies, I don't know if they should exist, because if you go into Microsoft, I mean, come on, you can't. If you're happy with that operating system, and it's 3 years old or 4 years old, why can you not just keep that? They make it so that you have to upgrade, you have to change, you have to get the new one, but we might not want the new one. If you can't use the new one, nothing works.
That's Microsoft, is it? That's Apple. That's pretty much.
But I'm just saying, Ammar, that's where things have gone, though.
Okay, and you're right, Jalf. There is a monopoly type of approach there, but having a deep and thorough understanding of technology, right? The challenge is maintaining those systems when things have moved on. So what do you do as a, right? So I come to you and go, you know what, Jalf? The monkfish curry that the Voujon used to do, I really like it. And you go, well, I'm okay. Sorry, this isn't the Voujon. I don't do the monkfish curry, but I go, but I used to eat it here. Can you just for me, please? You go, and you know, that's my favorite thing, and whatever it is, it's like, well, not really. So have you monopolized your menu? You know, there's a variety of things that the Ice Cube used to do. There's a variety of things that, you know, places and spaces. I mean, one of my favorite dishes was the Bimby fish and chips. Can you remember them?
Which one? The
Bimby, I think it was called, fish and chips. At the cinema, underneath the cinema, there used to be this fish and chips. I'm sure it was Bimby. Was it Bimby?
Oh, Bimby's. Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's just, to me, it feels as though that you just can't do anything without being dictated by these big companies, right? You've got to upgrade. We've got to download the new software. And you often feel that...
Yeah, you don't. You've got a choice.
You don't have the choice because...
Because you have a choice.
You don't, because if you don't...
Get back to using pen and paper into the future.
No, because if you don't, Ammar, the problem is that there's no functionality in anything. Your phone, you go into an app, it doesn't work because you haven't...
That's just evolution. That's just innovation. I still enjoy, I still reminisce, right? Sort of going to the top of the street and mum calling Pakistan with a card from a phone box, and you go, hello! And it's so funny because you used to shout, and they could probably hear you because you were shouting. And there's still, people like stuff that used to happen. The challenge you have with it is you can't maintain it.
I'm going to be on, but I need to take the video off. I'm going to be on just for a few more minutes because I've just got to get ready to go to an appointment. So I'm going to take the video off, but I'm going to be here on the other end.
Well, just leave it on. It's everyone's comfortable with the full Monday type thing.
It's all good. Let me come off. Right. Can you hear me, Ammar?
I can hear you, yeah, just
Okay.
like we're reminiscing like the good old days. That was like perfect timing, wasn't it? Hello, Bangladesh. Hello,
Well,
Dhaka.
I think we did used to wonder why the kind of the tone of the voice changed and the how loud you speak changed, but in essence it's probably psychological in some ways, and we probably would do the same.
It's just change, Jeff. People hate change.
Well,
Like as in someone comes in to, you go, right, we're changing our EPOS system, or we're changing our whatever it is. We're no longer going to do this. And someone goes, but we've always done it like that.
Yeah. I mean, it is a big debate, but technology is amazing. It's changed the world, revolutionized it. But I just feel that you just have to abide more or less everything the way that you've been dictated to, and sometimes you just wish you had a bit more freedom and choice. But ultimately,
listen, I wasn't disagreeing with anything that you said. It is quite important that people have those choices. I was just offering an explanation of it's quite easy to sort of go, why can't they leave those systems, or why can't they, why do they impose their decisions on everyone with these upgrades? And there's like new ways of doing and all of that. For me, it's important to understand that, yes, you would like to be everything to everybody, but you can't.
Yeah, I mean, that's
well, think about it, Jeff. You create. Yeah, people are moving on. How people operate, right? It's now more of a security-focused space and place. I mean, gosh, Jeff, how comfortable were we giving out our card details over the phone to everyone?
Yeah.
Right? How comfortable were we sort of giving our date of birth and our mother's maiden names and all of those things?
Yeah, but the data, but then the thing is, these companies, though, you would happily give it to Windows and you would happily give it to Apple, because and you've got all the apps where they've got all of those records anyway, because you have to set them up as you go along, and that's the whole thing. So you've given them all the information that we were so unhappy about giving, or we were so concerned about giving, but they've got everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, Amazon, they've got all of your details. You don't think twice. And yes, it's a big company. The security systems are the best, and this, that, and the other. But they've got every single information that you could give them. So again, technology-wise, and with this latest thing that they've voted in, I mean, ultimately, once I harness all that information together, it's going to be all one system effectively in the future, where your medical records, your status of everything, your medical status is all going to be there with one organization effectively. And that's where it's all going to lead to. And that's kind of, if that's how it is, I mean, people need to think that is that morally right or morally wrong? And there's like big questions there. And that's why there was a debate in Parliament the other day about, having the vaccination passports that they've voted through, that everyone must have a vaccination passport. So you have to go around with an ID card before you go to a shop, effectively, in the future. And that's all technology. I went into Boots the other day to get a to get a lateral flow test, and the lady was scan your app, and I said, well, I don't have that app. They said, oh, we can't give it to you, and I said, well, why not? I just want a lateral flow test. She was like, okay, then I can give you one because you haven't scanned the app. I said, well, what if you imagine that some old lady, she doesn't have an iPhone, what they're gonna do? You without that, you can't. It's kind of a form of discrimination, isn't it?
Wasn't it?
Because if you don't have an app, let's say you're in your 70s, you don't have a smartphone, and you want to get a lateral flow test, but the government's instructions are don't give it to them unless they're going to scan the app. So is that not discrimination?
Well, not particularly, because it's about identifying and recognizing whether there's abuse of a system as well, Jeff.
Well, that's fine. But then that's fine, Ammar. I understand all of that. But the point is, it's going to lead to you identifying yourself when you have to go get a Mars bar from the shop in the future. Otherwise, you're not going to be allowed. I mean, is that
Well, that's
fair?
outrageous, because Ammar's bar is the best place to go.
So, look, I think it's a debate that need to be had in society, and we're here to raise them and talk about them. And I think the understanding is required. And at the end of the day, the decisions are going to be made at higher levels than you and I. But I think that it's a slippery slope. What if the technology breaks down? What if there's like a fault in the system?
There's already examples of data breaches, and there was one of the companies that had started using some of the samples. Right, this was a headline in the Sunday Times about a month ago that one of the COVID testing companies, right, had started to use the samples for additional research. So they were starting to use our samples for other things.
Yeah, of course, and that doesn't really surprise us, and that's why you had the option to opt out. It wasn't an option to opt in. You're going to be on there as a default, but you have to opt. You've got the option to opt out. Why should it not be the other way around? If you want to opt in, then opt in. So they put so many people don't even understand the opt out, or they forget to opt out. So they are by default opted in to the NHS sharing of your information situation. So again, that's kind of it's a bit trickery, isn't it? In as far as I'm concerned. If you want to, so they just do it in that way. It's a bit like saying tomorrow you get a parking ticket. You've got it's gonna I don't know. You opt in for it to just go out of your account automatically, and rather than us having the choice to pay it when we want or when we can. So there is some changes that are happening, which it's, I don't know. I think there needs to be debate and an understanding of exactly what's going on before then you will get these type of breaches happening, because the protection hasn't been given in the first instance to ourselves as the public. So I think we need to really, technology is amazing, but on the same token, I just think it can be abused if it's used irresponsibly.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's why we all need some level of caution, don't we?
Yep. Absolutely, we do. We need to just understand things holistically, fully, and before we just give our information to everyone that asks. So, and hopefully the government, they also need to have some solid rules in place so that there can't be any breaches to our data. Our data is a kind of a insight to our world, our personal lives. And if you share that to anybody, it's very, very sensitive information. Then there needs to be some really stringent and protective, because it's so important.
Absolutely. Jeff, What's the plan then? Is it today is Black Eye Friday or something like that, isn't it?
Well, today would have been the busiest day in the hospitality calendar for the whole year. Obviously, that's been up in the air, so we're just kind of gonna, whatever scraps is left, we're there to kind of serve and do the best that we can, and let's just see where we are after this weekend. Hopefully, if we keep on saying to ourselves, if they don't make any further announcements, then we could just about escape through this year. But if they keep on making more announcements, and any announcement is just gonna be catastrophic for the. It's already catastrophic. But anything you wanna kill us off, just make a couple more announcements, and you can kill off the whole of hospitality. Very in one announcement, hospitality will be dead. So let's see what the government's thinking. I think good old Rishi is supposed to be on holiday, and I think he's coming back from holiday, Ammar, Rishi Sunak. So I don't know what Rishi's got in, or Rishi is planning. I'm not really too sure. I would personally, 100%. I don't want any support. I don't want furlough. I don't want grants. I don't want any of that stuff. I just want the ability for us as individual operators to get on with our business. Yes, if you have to put certain things in place to safeguard the society and the country against Omicron, put some sensible things in place. But locking down a country when there's one person's died from it, come on. How many more people have died from car crashes? No, there's 10 people in hospital from Omicron. None of them's in a ventilator. One person's died from it. And you lock down effectively, you want to lock down the country. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but Jalf, we don't know what we don't know is part of the challenge, right?
I think the government should know. It shouldn't be. I don't know what we don't know. They know, and they have to make decisions based on what they know. And it has to be decisions based on the best interest of the public. Not best interest of parties or it can't be a rule for them, a rule for us. Look at everything that's happening with Boris. I mean, locks down the country and then go and have a party. I mean, how is that?
Well, it's. I mean, I must admit, I'm quite disappointed, if that's the right word to use, or the sentiment, in that everybody's getting so distracted in the press or turning this into a frenzy because of what's happened. He's done wrong. He's acknowledged it. He's apologized. We need to move on. There's far much more important things.
Ammar?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Then it is a trivial matter. The fact that you've had a party, but it's also, how on earth can you go and tell the entire country you can't go?
Undoubtedly, listen, there is no question that he is undoubtedly. There's been some credibility challenges that we need to overcome. I get that. I respect that, and I appreciate that. And ultimately, that may have and could have led to a number of people looking at sort of causing more of a challenge, and it's led to more people saying, well, I'm not going to do anything because he didn't do it. Two rights don't make a wrong. I mean, clearly the voters, so he's being blamed. Yesterday there was a by-election in Shropshire, Jalf.
Yeah.
And it has been a
disaster for him.
Well, so the reason why the by-election happened was because Owen Paterson, who had clearly breaking and broken rules. And this is where it all started, right? Boris Johnson had allegedly started to look to defend Owen Paterson and change the rules in Parliament. And then it all spiraled from there about sleaze and all of this and all of that and all of these type of things, right? So that happened. But Owen Paterson had done wrong in any event. So he then resigned, created this by-election, and the likelihood is people there would have said, well, if Owen Paterson, our MP, who was a member of Parliament for the Conservative Party, has acted like this, we're probably going to vote for someone else. I almost feel slightly sorry for Boris right now, because, and look, it is what it is. For me, we need to be concentrating on the important things, and it's dead easy for politicians to play politics, right? And for press to get involved and cover their front pages and look at this has happened and that's happened. Yes, it's happened. Yes, it's wrong. Yes, he's apologized. Yes, if someone should be prosecuted or persecuted, everybody should be treated the same. But let's move on. Let's do and concentrate on the things that are the most important to people. That's lives and livelihoods. Let's look at, the other thing that's really, really annoyed me this week, Jack, just whilst I'm on my high horse, is, so Boris comes out and says, we're going to vaccinate, we're going to offer the vaccination to everyone. The press go, well, what does that mean? Does that mean everyone's going to get vaccinated? He said, everyone's going to get vaccinated. Why aren't they getting vaccinated? People are in queues. People haven't, the system's crashed. You can't do this, right? Yet hundreds of thousands of people have been vaccinated. Millions this week have been vaccinated, Jeff, right? And it's so easy, right, to get caught up on what hasn't happened. Yet the effort to make what has happened gets totally forgotten or dismissed. It's wrong. Look, if someone comes out and says, you need to get vaccinated, everyone's going to jump on a system. The system was never built to deal with millions of people all at once. So be a little bit patient, be a bit persevering, be a bit positive. Jeff, I chaired a trade body meeting. I chair one every quarter. And the Federation of Small Business, the Entrepreneurs Forum, all of these organizations were there, right? And some of the things that they're reporting around leisure and hospitality and retail, right? Or people don't want to work in retail because of the abuse that they're getting.
Like what kind of abuse?
Like from people, from the public. I have never seen as many signs in my life where it says, please be nice, please don't abuse our staff. I mean, what world do we live in that people think it's all right to be angry and abuse people? Yet you see so much of it everywhere.
I think that's just personally, we are a little bit on the firing line as well, but I think it's down to the lockdown. I think it's changed people's moods and behaviors. I think because they haven't been around people as much, I think they're always on their back foot, they're mentally depressed, and I think it's got to do with that. And these are the impacts of the lockdowns. I think that this is a direct connection to the lockdowns. And these are the consequences.
Okay, Jack. Listen. Whatever the background, whatever the reason, we've all got our own demons. We've all got our challenges. I'm not being dismissive of the pressures that people are under, right? I'm not being dismissive that everybody's going through a terrible time, and some of us are going through a far more torrid time, right? But that does not justify or excuse anybody sort of kicking, shouting, swearing in a shop, in a hospital, at a doctor's, at the vaccination centres, at pharmacies. Everybody's just trying to do their best.
Well, they are. I think obviously there's been a change. There has definitely been a change in society where the patience used to be a virtue, but patience is sin. And maybe people, if society changes and it seems to be more and more prevalent, it might be a shift that's here to stay, and to try and probably modernization of society in some ways, because you're moving away from how it used to be into a new norm, and the new norm may be this. And again, we need to tackle the source of how this behavior is kind of coming into society, and is that something that is going to make society better? And it's not. So we need to kind of look at it openly and seriously and tackle it. But again, I go to my original point. When you decide to lock down a country, you need to think about the longer term effects and impacts of that, and look at all of those things before you make those decisions.
Right. Well, listen, yeah, it's dead easy to sit and go, oh well, you should have done this and you should have done that, and hindsight is the best foresight. Even now, he is, as the Prime Minister, he's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. How does he even win? Why would you wish anybody in that position? You wouldn't.
Well, Boris Johnson has got incredibly thick skin, so I guess that's what you need to continue to remain as the PM, because he's had so many scares over the years. But he sticks his ground, and he seems to get through it. There is news that there is some more noises about the PM, and they're looking at potential candidates to replace Boris. Something came up on one of my feeds earlier on. But even so, I mean, who would you want as a replacement? It's certainly, you wouldn't want Michael Gove. I mean, he's just oh my goodness. I'd rather have Boris all day long. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks and months, and what the play is with Boris. But I think he's got an incredibly thick skin, Mr. Johnson, and I can't see him going anywhere without him wanting to go. I don't think he really cares what people say.
Yeah, sorry, Jalf, you're starting to break up a little bit.
I need to actually go, because I'm just here at my next appointment. Unfortunately, it's a little bit earlier than what I would like, but something I can't do much about.
It's interesting how you schedule everything in during this time, Jalf, isn't it?
No, it's unfortunately it's down to somebody else's scheduling. It was always booked for Thursday, but I think someone's at university, so they kind of politely have to change. But if I can't get this appointment, then I might have a sore foot for another few more weeks. So I think I better get that addressed.
Okay, well, don't put your foot in it.
I've been kicking too many walls in frustration, I think, Ammar. And
as long as it's not other people, Jalf, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I'll see you in a couple of hours. Where will
all right,
you be?
excellent. I'll be in Quayside.
Right. Okay.
Are you around?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Excellent. Cool. All right.
Okay, Ammar.
See you shortly. Thank you.
All right, bye.
And there we have it. The wonderful Jalf, an incredible person and a very good friend of mine who I dearly value. We clearly don't share the same opinions, which is a good thing. I'm hoping for you, our listeners and our viewers, because it enables you to get a number of different options and views as well, some of which what you're thinking, and some of which obviously you may not. Clearly, it is a very challenging time. I get that. It's from a leisure and hospitality point of view, it is the busiest time of the year. and the individuals regarding this who are involved in this sector, business owners, business leaders, workers, everybody was looking for some level of recompense for the torrid earlier year of operating, and to make up some of those losses and set them up for 2022. Sadly, that doesn't appear to be the case, and ultimately it is going to impact not just business owners but wider communities, societies, because we're talking about people's jobs. As you'd heard, what can Jalf do as a business owner to maintain jobs if the customers aren't there? And what does somebody else do who's dependent upon that job? It's a torrid and terrible situation. Coming back to the business topic of the week, we hadn't actually gone through in great depth or detail the rest of the business model innovation explanation of what it is and how you innovate your business model. But we talked about Dollar Shave Club, we talked about Microsoft, but ultimately what both of those examples showed, companies altering the customer-facing side of their business. It is also possible to disrupt backstage processes to revolutionize your business model. So Zara is a clothing brand launched in 1980 that owes its success to its ability to react to fashions almost immediately. Zara's value proposition is very time sensitive, relying on just-in-time design, production and supply chain to stay ahead of their competitors in the production of on-trend clothing. Zara shortened the time to market to less than 3 weeks, and each store holds only a limited inventory that are replenished based on customer demand, with new styles arriving almost constantly. As of 2018, Zara had 18.9 billion turnover. So there's a variety of examples and explanations of how you can look at your business model and how you can improve it. So if you need some advice or guidance, please reach out to the SME Centre of Excellence or Asian Business Connections. You can find us via the internet, Facebook, LinkedIn, social media, Spice FM, anywhere you want. We are probably easily accessible and very easy to find. We've supported thousands of people and individuals, so please reach out. Until next week, goodbye from me.
98.8 FM.